Hello and welcome to Business Part 3. We're going to pick up where we left off in Business Part 2, which was discussing in depth a little bit more further whether you will accept credit cards. So first of all, foremost, as I mentioned before, this is something you're going to have to personally decide whether it's something you wish to do. And most of my clients that I work with who have businesses have figured out one of the many paths to accept credit cards, whether it's they're working at a vendor booth or whether they provide credit card payments via their website. Usually there's some facet of their business that they will be utilizing the credit card processing component of the business and receiving funds. Because let's face it, everybody runs around with their cards, whether it's debit or credit, and most of us don't carry our checkbooks with us any longer. So let's talk a little more in depth about the places that we can get credit cards. So a credit card terminal is a piece of equipment is either provided for free or you actually have to pay for the unit. So if you go to your local bank, the bank that you are banking with currently, you will find that they can provide you with that terminal. These are the kind of terminals, usually the ones that look similar to the ones that you would see at a restaurant, where they swipe their card and a little strip of paper prints out and you sign that. Those terminals, when I last investigated, were fairly expensive. I want to think that they ran in the $600 to $800 range. And there were some credits that they would give back to you if you processed a certain number of credit card transactions within the first either 30 or 90 days of having the terminal. I found for me that the payback for that unit, where the cost savings associated with the unit would take me anywhere from 2 to 3 years to pay back. However, I'm not a big retail store. If I was a big retail store, that might have been a much faster payback. What you need to look at is the fees per type of card. So these terminals will charge different rates depending on the type of card presented. So if someone and most of your clients play with a debit card, generally those payment fees are less. And if those cards are regular cards, they're more. If those cards have a premium, such as provide miles or trips or cash back, I found that those percentages on those cards are actually higher than the average rate for like a Square or a QuickBook would charge. And then, of course, American Express and Discover are different rates as well, with American Express generally being considerably higher. Another factor to keep in consideration is the fact of whether you're going to swipe that card or insert that card in a device, or whether you're going to hand key the number in. As a general rule, all of the lending institutions and banks and processors that I've looked into, they all charge a premium percentage if you hand key that number in. The reason being is they consider that of greater risk. So if someone had stolen your credit card number, they would hand key in that number to process it, and therefore they consider it more risky, and therefore they're going to charge you a higher rate. Now, if you have the card present and you can swipe it or dip it or insert it into your device, you'll get the lower rate. And the rates that we're talking about, for example, with Square, might range from 2.75 all the way up to 3.5 would be the difference. Plus there's a per card swipe transactions, and those usually range anywhere from 10 to 25, 35 cents per swipe. So take that in consideration when you're looking at the equipment that is provided by the bank, or if you're looking at other equipment by other banks in regards to the types of rates that they offer by the type of card that you will be accepting. The next type of processor I'd like to share with you is Square. Square was one of the very first types of equipment to become available that would work pretty much anywhere. They have a small device that attaches to your smartphone so that you can take payments very easily and painlessly from their equipment, and it gets processed in batch just like a regular terminal that you would purchase from your bank. And the way that Square works is that money is automatically deposited into your bank on the next business day. Assuming you swipe the card on Monday, that means the funds would be in your account on Tuesday. They've recently added the feature that you can get the money immediately, but there are some fees associated with that. So as a general rule, I just let it naturally batch overnight. The funds are available the next day, and then you can move forward with paying whatever bills that you need to. Your business bank account would be attached to the Square account, so you don't have to do anything fancy to make that money show up in your account. It just automatically dumps in the very next day. Now, Square is going to dump those funds in post banking fees. So if you charged $100, you're not going to get $100. You're going to get more like $97.25 because they're going to retain their credit card processing fees. Now, this is something you're going to have to take in consideration because when you're doing your accounting work, you will need to book the full $100 that you receive, but you'll also need to book the banking fees that comes off of that. Those banking fees are an deductible expense, but you'll need to track both the total amount of money received less the banking fees that Square has retained. And this is, again, the same process that you'll go through for whether you're using a bank terminal, Square, QuickBooks, etc. And again, Square was one of the first ones that came out with the process. It may have even been the very first one. They will send you free of charge the small piece of equipment that hooks into your phone, and you'll just need to set up a vendor account with them. And that process is where you give them your name of your business, your tax ID number. You'll give them your banking account routing information as well as account numbers, bank name, address, etc. All of these institutions are going to process your credit cards, and if the amount of money that gets processed through it is high enough, they will send what's called a 1099-K, and that is a document that goes to the federal government to tell them how much money you've received through their credit card terminal. And also, it will send you a copy, and that's for your records to make sure that you are processing internally all those funds that you receive from the credit card processing terminal. So that's a document for your tax return. After Square, you can also look at doing everything inside QuickBooks. QuickBooks accounting software itself has software built into it so that you can take and process credit card payments. You can do that with someone sitting there with you with a small device that gets inserted into your smartphone, or you can electronically send them an invoice via their QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop processing, and they can actually click that link and insert in their credit card information or their bank account information, and QuickBooks will charge their card and will deposit those funds into your bank account. It is my personal experience with QuickBooks. They usually take about 2 days for this to happen. Square's a little faster, so I actually have a slight preference for them. But when it comes to the ease of working with them, of course, having it integrate into your accounting system is pretty darn nice. So far, they haven't changed how they process it. So right now, the full amount gets pulled into your QuickBooks program. So if you charged $100, you would see $100 get deposited, but then you would also see a separate deduction, a separate line item for their banking fees associated with processing that card. So if in that case it was $100, maybe your bank fees were $2.75, you'll see 2 transactions show up in your bank account. So that is nice that QuickBooks does split those out. Of course, QuickBooks develops and changes their software at all times, so they may end up changing how they do it, but that is currently how they're handling that transaction. Now, ACH transfers. I love, love, love ACH transfers. So again, this is where your bank is transferring money and receiving money from their bank, and QuickBooks, in this case, serves as the intermediary. Now, on the downside, it takes about 5 days for this to happen, but there are no banking fees, and that's the part I love. And in reality, if someone's going to mail you a check, by the time they receive the bill, write the check, mail the check's received by you, you open the envelope, and then you get to the bank, it's probably going to be 3 to 5 days anyway. So you really don't lose that much time with ACH transfers, but it is pretty awesome that there's no fees associated with it. So big fan of that. And then, of course, there's other third-party vendors out there that you can investigate. I know Clover's one, for example. So, look around, be smart, ask a lot of questions, see what the different fees are so that you can be aware of what you're getting into, whether there's contracts. Another thing that some of the institutions do is they do have a lower per transaction processing fee, but they have a monthly flat rate. So they may charge you $20 a month for the term of your contract, but then charge a lower percentage based on the per transaction charge. So look at all the numbers, read the fine print, run a simulation if you need to in an Excel formula to figure out which one's going to make the best sense for you. So this is what a smartphone card reader looks like. This particular one is for Square, but like I said, QuickBooks will mail you one as well. Once you set up their vendor account, which is giving them your tax ID number, your name, your address, etc., they will mail you in probably 3 to 5 business days, maybe a little longer, one of these little readers. It slides into your headphone jack and allows you to swipe the card. Now, do please keep in mind that as of a couple of years ago, if you swipe a card and the card is not valid, you are responsible for tracking that person down and getting the funds. The credit card company will no longer accept swipes as a liability that they will deal with. Because if the card has a chip, you need a chip reader. Swiping a card is still accessible. It's still something you could do. Just know that you are bearing the responsibility for tracking that money down should the card not be available. And like, for example, it could be a stolen credit card. So like I said, the responsibility and the liability is on you. Square does sell a card reader that you can insert your credit cards into, and those run approximately $50, and you can mail order that directly from Square. So let's look at the next type of way of taking credit card payments. This is a sample of the Square tablet that you probably see at a lot of restaurants. You can set it up to receive money through it, or you can utilize the small square box in the bottom right hand corner. That is the apparatus that you can use to take chip cards or Apple Pay or Samsung Pay. So if you prefer to use that format, you certainly can purchase this equipment. The small little box runs about $50, and the whole setup, if you get everything, I think it runs somewhere between $600 and $1,000, depending on the bells and whistles that you add to your setup. And then the final piece of equipment that you can look at is a pretty traditional credit card terminal. These are the ones similar to the ones that you would get from your bank. And of course, you can swipe with these or insert the card as shown and process credit card payments this way. This particular one's the most expensive one to purchase, and it's the one that has the variety of pricing structures in regards to what type of card that's used. So it's going to charge less for debit card, more for American Express, and a price range in between for everyone. Oftentimes these cards also have a monthly fee associated with it, so you'll need to take that in consideration in addition to the per swipe charge. All right, well that's the end of this segment, and we'll move forward to the next round of videos.